has anybody ever thought about January 6th as a money-making opportunity? Strangest thing, an amazing story over at Mother Jones, motherjones.com. Dan Friedman, a senior reporter with the D.C. Bureau of Mother Jones, talking about it, writing about it. His Twitter handle, by the way, dfriedman33 or at Mother Jones. And Dan's on the line with us. Hey, Dan, welcome to the program. Tell us about this Meet the Operatives Who Profited from January 6th. What got you started on this particular story or beat?
Thanks for having me. I got started on this, I think really last year, about a year ago, when we were reading many of the transcripts that came out released by the January 6th committee right before they released their final report. And my colleague, Stephanie Mensimer and I were talking about all the grift that was kind of revealed in some of the transcripts and a lot of the backbiting among organizers of the January 6th rally who were accusing each other of making off with some of the money that they had raised and stuff like that. It took a while for me to have an opportunity to really drill down on it, but I think it's a pretty compelling theme, and it's something I think we see obviously throughout the MAGA movement, and even more broadly that we think of a lot of people as ideologues who are doing stuff because they have sort of crazy ideology, which is often true, but in many cases there are financial incentives or clout incentives, and I think particularly with January 6th, we saw a lot of people who really were more operatives and I think pretty cynical, operating on a pretty cynical basis rather than even really caring that much what happened on January 6th in terms of the attack on the Capitol. They didn't want it to plan for it to happen necessarily, but they didn't really mind too much of it happen. They were busy getting paid.
So these are people who were, skimming money off the top as consultant fees or as salary or something like that, or?
Well, I think I spent a lot of time talking in the article about Caroline Wren, who's a Trump fundraiser, and she's now working for Kari Lake's the gubernatorial campaign in Arizona. Kari Lake, of course, is a prominent election denier. And Caroline Wren raised about $3 million from Julie Jenkins Vancelli, who is a Publix heiress, although the Publix has pointed out she has no ongoing...
The supermarket chain.
Yes, right, the supermarket chain. So she raised, it was around maybe more like 2.7 million ultimately. And the majority of that money, Wren suggested that Vancelli give it to several organizations with which Wren had existing agreements that paid her commissions. So she made commissions of between 5% and up to 15% on some of that money. And some of those organizations, like this PAC that was running ads in Georgia related to the special Senate elections that were happening there, runoff elections, had nothing to do with January 6th. But Wren suggested to Vancelli that they had some connection to January 6th and to her wish to try to help have the election overturned. Another organization is Turning Point USA, which at the time had no connection to January 6th. But Wren got Vancelli to give more than $1 million to that organization. Wren then made a 5% commission on that. So that's $50,000 right there. And then, they did become involved in January 6th. But what you see is, I think, Caroline Wren making some money off the desire of Julie Jenkins Vancelli to support this rally, whatever Caroline may have actually believed. And that's a good example, but there are many others that I get into in the story.
Yeah, people are, I think, somewhat familiar with, for example, Steve Bannon, his whole Build the Wall scam, where Trump supporters sent him millions and millions of dollars, and he basically just stuck it in his own pocket. I mean, he got convicted of that, and then Trump pardoned him for it. So these kind of grifts on the right wing are, a long-standing thing. Alex Jones selling vitamins, that just hustling stuff. But January 6th, is this? I'm assuming this is symptomatic of a larger grift within the GOP or within the right-wing movement, and also I'm wondering how Julie Jenkins Vancelli feels about it now that this story has come out. Does she feel exploited?
I don't think she hasn't said that. She took the fifth when she was called before the January 6th committee, and she has declined to comment substantively to reporters like me and other people since her role in the January 6th attack or funding the rallies that led to the attack was first exposed. I think that she ought to feel exploited, and it may be that people around her are trying to protect her from giving away her money in sort of questionable ways. However, she has continued to give money to various right-wing organizations, so there's really no sign that she's changed how she's giving away her fortune.
Yeah.
And, I think you mentioned Bannon. Roger Stone, I think, is a good example of someone. Roger Stone said he was raising money for security on January 6th. He raised, we found, about $42,000, really through one appearance on Alex Jones's InfoWars, and he just never spent it, it appears. So he said he was going to spend it on security. He didn't. And what exactly he did with that money is not clear, but he didn't spend it on security. So we can kind of reach some conclusions about what he was really up to there. And I also noted in there that the same billionaire, Julie Jenkins Fancelli, also paid for Stone later in 2021 to have extensive dental surgery, including getting a set of veneers, because she was just a fan of his, it seems.
Wow. Wow, this is absolutely remarkable. Does Ginny Thomas play into any of this? I know she was involved with one of the organizations that was busing people to the January 6th rally.
I did not get into Ginny Thomas's role specifically. I think that was that Tea Party Express. But all these organizations are. I think it's important to note many of these organizations are legally raising money from people, and they don't have a lot of restrictions on how they spend the money as long as it's sort of generally in the direction of what they say their organization is set up to do. Right. So I don't have any evidence that Ginny Thomas was involved in any particularly egregious or illegal grift. But you can make a pretty strong argument that, like, all of these organizations are at some level, when they're promoting lies that Trump is telling about the 2020 election, and they're telling people they can do something about it and just give us some money and we're going to do X, Y, and Z, that they are exploiting people, even if it's legal.
Did you uncover any evidence that either the funders or the grifters or the people who were the middlemen, were handling the money, that were helping, put together the January 6th, that they were looking at anything beyond just a simple rally where Donald Trump gives a speech, as opposed to, actually trying to overthrow the government, storm the Capitol, kill 5 people, kill 4 police officers, et cetera?
No, I did not, and I don't think they were. I don't think they were planning on an attack. I didn't write about people who sort of were planning for a rally that would result in attack on the Capitol. I think, again, these are people who saw an opportunity. They saw that this billionaire had put up $3 million, and that was sort of filtering out through different Republican organizations like Turning Point USA, Tea Party Express, this Republican Attorney General's organization, and they were making commissions off that money, and they were sort of figuring out ways to get paid from it. And many of these people, I talk about this guy named Taylor Budowich, who was a Donald Trump Jr. buddy who wound up making close to $20,000 at least off the rally. He said pretty clearly in his deposition he didn't think that the election was stolen, or he made that clear. Mm-hmm. So these people were making money, and it's not that they planned for an attack on the Capitol. They just helped create circumstances in which that happened, and they didn't really care what was happening. They were sort of taking care of number one. They probably thought Trump lost, and why not make some money off him before he leaves.
Amazing. The cynicism in the GOP is just breathtaking. Dan Friedman, senior reporter with the D.C. Bureau of Mother Jones, motherjones.com, dfriedman33 over on Twitter. Dan, thanks so much for dropping by and for writing this piece.
Thanks a lot, Tom.
Great talking with you. We'll be right back. It's 15 minutes past the hour.